When I was a kid, every night before I went to bed, and whenever I thought of it, I prayed to God to give me a bicycle. One day, I realized that this was not the way God worked. The next day, I went and stole myself a new bicycle, and every night before I went to bed, I prayed to God to forgive me my sins. Al Capone was the man at the top of a criminal empire. Born in America at the height of the crime rate, Al Capone committed his first crime by beating a female teacher at the Catholic school he attended. He became close to the juvenile gangs in his area. This intimacy with the gangs was the first step that would lead him to become the man at the top of a criminal empire. In his teenage years, he joined the 5 Point Gang, the most powerful gang in the area where he lived. It was during this period that members of the Sicilian Mafia infiltrated the Irish Mafia. Al Capone was doing collection and hitman work for Frankie Yale, the leader of the 5 Points gang. On the other hand, he was working in a nightclub. While working there, he groped a girl and was stabbed in the face by her brother. He got the name Scarface after these wounds. In the future, he would strengthen his patriotic image by saying that he received these wounds in the war. However, it was known to many that he polished his shoes with the American flag. In 1917, he married Mary Josephine. Al Capone started to make his fortune from smuggling and ran his business with his gang friends and brothers. One of his brothers died of torture during police interrogation for a murder he had committed. Al Capone's business partner was seriously wounded in an armed attack and had to flee the country. In order to increase his power within the state, he attended all the funerals, weddings, and similar events of the governors and mayors and established close relations with them. When Al Capone's annual earnings reached $100 million, this situation started to attract the attention of the media. He said he was a man of the people. Al Capone was shot multiple times in his car and luckily survived all of them. In addition, the North Side gang hijacked planes carrying Al Capone's moonshine, murdered 2 mayors under Al Capone's command, and 3 times tried to end the life of his key man, Jack Migran. Al Capone wanted to make peace to avoid being exposed, but he realized he had to fight, so he devised a perfect plan. On February 14, 1929, Al Capone's trusted men posed as police officers and raided the hideout of Bugs Moran, the leader of the North Side gang. Believing they were cops, rival gang members surrendered without resistance. They all lined up in front of a wall and were shot and killed. Later, this event became known as the Valentine's Day Massacre. There was no trial because the case was never fully solved. Al Capone refuted the charges against him by proving that he was in Florida on February 14, 1929. Although this attack was perfectly planned, the main target, Bugs Moran, was still alive because he was not at the scene. It is said that Bugs Moran withdrew completely from the market after this event. Al Capone had organized his mafia organization within the state. He had established close friendships with many governors and mayors. Many of them were at his beck and call and turned a blind eye to what he was doing. America's economic crisis, known as the Great Depression, accelerated the rise of Al Capone's career. Labor unions were striking and organizing protests almost every day. By putting pressure on labor unions, Al Capone prevented America from being affected by the wave of communism. In front of his workplace, many unemployed criminal offenders formed long queues to find a job with him. There were long lines in many restaurants he opened. He gave lectures at many universities. He laundered the illegal money he earned by establishing laundry chains. Al Capone was known as the founder of the first statist mafia because he brought the mafia organization to state levels. With the wealth he earned, he helped the poor. Over time, he became a folk hero. In the eyes of some, he was the modern Robin Hood. Al Capone was followed by the police for a long time, and although his crimes were known, no evidence was found. In 1931, he was indicted for tax evasion. His lawyers demanded a plea bargain and even attempted to bribe the judge and threaten some officials. After a long trial, Al Capone was found guilty of tax evasion on October 17, 1931. Al Capone was sentenced to 11 years in prison. His lawyers appealed the sentence, but it was rejected. While he was in prison, His gang was at the point of disintegration. After serving 7 years, Al Capone was released on parole and became depressed due to the troubles he suffered during this time. His health problems were exacerbated by syphilis. As a result of the tests conducted by psychiatrists, it was observed that his level of perception decreased to the level of 12 years old. Al Capone's mental balance partially deteriorated, and his condition worsened at his home in Florida on January 21, 1947, and he suffered a stroke. He died on January 25, 1947, at the age of 48.